Hello children, so how are you all? All my dear class 9 students, so this is the first non-detailed text, the trunk of Ganesh. I know there are so many difficult words, not only for spelling but also for pronunciation. So I am making this video for you all so that you will hear the pronunciation of these new words. Those are in this chapter and then you can pronounce it clearly, correctly. Okay, so let us start. One information for all of you, the meaning of almost all the difficult words you will get at the end of this video, and if you want you can directly go to that part and write down the meaning in
So
Odia,
here you can see
and also
this
in
one
English
is the text. So in part 1 it is written, it was just one of those days when nothing seemed to go right for Govinda Maharana. Once again there was this unhappy incident which kept bothering him. At sunrise, he finished his bath in the courtyard and took a glass of tea from his wife's hand. His fingers suddenly slackened and the glass slipped from his hand. It was his first conscious knowledge of the fear he carried. The superstition haunted him throughout his life. So this day there was a special reason for his gloomy, tense manner, for it was the third day in succession that such a thing had happened. Govinda had learnt the trade from his father, as had his father from his father's father. The substance of the art of idol making, the Durgas and the Ganeshas and the Shivas. Perhaps I have no right, he told his wife, to meddle with the private lives of gods. That is why they are angry. Perhaps I have been of late using my powers too carelessly, and the icons I have been making are not exactly those my father would have made in his time. Sulochana looked at her husband with frightened eyes. Perhaps he was right, she thought, but maybe he was growing older and his hands and eyesight were not as strong as before. You must be tired working without a break, she said, her words betraying her simplicity. You know what day it is. He studied her for a moment and continued, and I am already late on the large Ganesh. What had gone wrong? He could not understand. Making an image was child's play for him. Only in this case, the idol was somewhat larger than most, the trunk a little heavier, a trifle longer, that was all. Perhaps the clay he had been using was just that measure short of its adhesive quality which makes for a smooth, tight binding, but it was the same clay he had been using for years for innumerable images he had perfected and sold. Then why the sudden tear at the point where the elephant trunk took a turn and swung gently downward? Was the weight too heavy for the clay mold of the image's face to support it? Sulochana did not want to question him about his work, for she knew that he was one of the best image makers in the whole valley. Govinda Maharana's images, it's hard to find better work than his. She had heard the
townsfolk often say he was one of the few excellent craftsmen left, and she nursed her pride in secret. And yet, some inner voice hammered at her. Was it because he had asked for a better price, a rather exorbitant one, than what was considered reasonable for an image of that size? She was convinced that her husband was a righteous man, but wasn't it possible that his seeming greed had angered the unknown? The 61-year-old Govinda had a large family to support. This included a son who had a wife and two children. He had turned out to be an irresponsible drifter who spent his days away from the house fishing idly for shrimp and carp in the Mahanadi. The second son had been taken in as an apprentice in a paper mill. There remained only the youngest, a mere 13-year-old. Out of the three, he alone showed promise of taking up the ancestral profession, thus restoring a measure of calm to the father's mind. In all these years, this experience of his was a new one, a feeling of being alone in a ravenous darkness. All his thinking brought Govinda to the inescapable conclusion that there was an element of the supernatural in the mysterious breaking of the image. But what had he done to deserve this? His life was ordered, restrained, so where could he have gone wrong? True that a subtle change had come about in the designing of the clay figures, in the eye-catching new apparel, and in the shades of luminous paint he was using these days. But he had not gone about making the changes on his own. They had wanted their gods to be more in tune with the times. Gradually, therefore, he had endowed the goddesses with slim and carved bodies. But there was nothing flashy about this image of Ganesha. He was at work on. Then why should this happen now? Or was it because the price of 250 rupees was he had asked for was a large and unreasonable sum for 6 foot high image of Ganesha? He saw his youngest son Ranju come into the workroom and stare at the unfinished Ganesha. There it has happened again. The boy mumbled bitterly and flinched at the pain he saw in the old man's eyes. The image stood incomplete to one side of the room, facing the grilled window set into the northern wall. Cracks had started appearing at several places where the clay had dried. The straw skeleton of the image showed its forks through the mud where the trunk had torn. Quickly, Ranju cleared the debris surrounding the image. He brought a fresh mass of clay and placed it before his father to knead. Govinda looked closely at his son. No, there was no trace of ridicule evident on the young face, no harshness of youth, merely a mute acceptance of the moment. His glance turned to the image again, and before he realized what he was doing, his hands were once again kneading the clay warmly, professionally, making it into the right stickiness as he began carefully feeling the tear. Govinda had nearly finished mending the broken trunk when Ranju interrupted him. Father, the draught from the window, maybe it should be closed. The image now appeared as clean and smooth as a mannequin. There were no trace of recurring disaster. The possibility of a gust of wind breaking the image was too remote. Govinda thought,
but the image had been placed very close to the open window, only a meter away. He had shifted the image himself deliberately in order that more light would be available for his work, and the wet clay would dry up sooner, facing the draught of wind. But that the wind could be a destroyer had never entered his mind. He decided, not the wind, it seems impossible. We will sit up tonight. He told his son with an air of finality. That is the only way we will ever learn what is happening. Here. Yes, here. Which way would the intruder come? He looked around the room and pointed to a dark corner further away, about 3 meters from the window. That would be just the right spot for us to keep watch unnoticed. You can observe the door, the window, and the image at the same time from there. Right, father? I suppose it is the only way for us. So the plan was agreed upon for the night. Gobinda, who usually had his evening meal quite late, decided to have it early along with his youngest son. The hours passed. A light drizzle came, which lasted only for a couple of minutes. The night appeared darker to both father and son, the darkness denser as they took up their pre-arranged positions in the corner of the workroom. At first, they found it difficult to distinguish one object from another, but soon the darkness emptied itself. The image of Ganesha stood as they had left in earlier in the afternoon. Apparently unperturbed and dominant, somehow the idol appeared to have grown in size in the darkness. Huddled close to his father, Ranju's initial excitement had given way to a cold weariness as the night progressed. Perhaps the boy should be sent to bed, Gobinda thought. He heard him yawning in the dark. The workroom remained still and quiet. The air was heavy, as though bound by invisible ropes to Gobinda's guilt. Nothing appeared to disturb the silence. A few mosquitoes buzzed about them. Where was the intruder they had imagined? Wasn't it more likely an act of the supernatural? Soon the boy dozed off and slumped to the floor. Gobinda was awake into the sound filtering into the room, his eyes glued to the dark and to the silence. He put an arm around the boy. Time went by. Then there was a sound, a soft, distinct sound. The intruder. Gobinda's heart thudded. His eyes met the unfinished eyes of the idol. His gaze swept across to the open window. There, between two vertical bars, was the unmistakable shape of a cat crouched, ready to jump. Unable to move, he watched the animal lithely leap across and land on top of Ganesha's trunk. A smile beamed across his exhausted face. He gently began shaking the boy awake. Thank you. So write down those words, the meanings in your copy. Try to remember, because word meaning is most essential. And try to write down what are the important incidents or things happened with Gobinda Maharana one by one. Very easily make one flow chart. First what happened, then next incident, then next incident. So the story you can narrate within 10 lines. Write down the first line, second line, third line, fourth, fifth, and in this way to the 10th line. So now I hope you must have understood what does it mean. Now I hope you must be cleared in reading at least, because the motto and objective of this video is to make you know how to pronounce, how to read the words, how to read the whole chapter. So listen it more than once and make it very clear so that you can read wherever you come across such words and sentences. Bye bye, take care, have a nice day ahead.